Hey guys, J-Dub here outside of Dub's Kustoms in my beautiful yard. Well, I think it's beautiful. Some people probably have different opinions, but I'm standing beside this beautiful short box square body. This truck has been in my family since new. My auntie owned it. She gave it to my dad, and now my dad's gave it to me. I've never driven it. I did get it running. I have done a little bit of work to it when my dad owned it, but I know next to nothing about the truck. What I do know is when I did get it running, it ran like trash. The whole top end clattered and banged, and I just didn't trust it. So what we're gonna do here today is we're gonna pull this 6-cylinder out, which is the original. I was told it's called camel bump because of these two humps on the valve cover, but I'm not really sure. We're gonna pull this out and we're gonna put a 292 6-cylinder in it. I wanna keep the 6 in there because it'll be better on fuel, and I just wanna be able to scoot around in this truck, get parts, and look good, and kind of just get it back on the road because it's been sitting for absolutely ever. It's an automatic, it's got a turbo 350, and I wanna change that to a 4-speed because I'm just a standard guy. So the 292 that I got, I scavenged out of another square body. I absolutely know nothing about it. I do know it rolls over. I was told that it was pretty gummed up with blow-by. When I pulled it out of the truck, the guy said that he took the valve cover off and it was covered in soot. All the rockers were covered in soot. But I popped the little oil filler cap off and I looked down, I could see 2 rockers and they look clean as a whistle to me. So I'm just not gonna believe what he was saying, and I'm gonna do what I feel is right by pulling this crappy 6-cylinder out, putting the 292 in, which I've been told is bulletproof. We're gonna get it fired up, and hopefully I can drive this to Quesnel and surprise my dad by just showing up without telling him. But in this video, we're just gonna take it as far as we're gonna pull this junk out, put in the 292, put the clutch assembly in, and just get it back up and running. Then I'll start kind of just bombing it around town and just see if I can work out some of the cobwebs. And if it seems like it's reliable, I am gonna drive it to my hometown, meet up with my old man, and see what he thinks of the old truck that's been in my family for, well, ever. My whole life. But there you go. That's my spiel on the little short box truck. We're gonna pull it in the shop right now, and we're gonna start disassembly, keep everything, and I'm really hoping that I don't have to spend much money. I do know that I will have to modify the drive shaft. That I know for sure, but I could get away from that too if I wanted. If I just wanted to change the engine and leave the automatic in, no, I don't. I could not have to spend the money on the drive shaft, but let's just go all the way. Let's make this little truck a 4-speed and something that's just fun to drive, easy on fuel, and you know what? Just might get me excited to do a little bit more to the old truck. You know, I've always looked at this truck and been like, you know, it's okay, because I've never been a Stepside guy. I'm a fleet side guy, you know, but it's starting to grow on me, and I just know that if I did change the box, my dad would be pissed. So I'm gonna leave it for now, but in the future, maybe we'll go with the fleet side. I really think that it just carries the body line all the way to the back of the truck, and I like that look a little bit more. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Let's get her in the shop, and let's get this old girl running again. So now that I've got the old truck in the shop, I've taken the radiator out, we're draining the fluids, so I'm just gonna take a minute to fill you guys in on the rest of the story. My auntie bought it brand new. She drove it for a bunch of years and then had parked it. My dad kept seeing it on the side of her driveway, kept asking about it, and after about 8-ish years, as what I was told, she finally said that I'll give it to you on one condition, that you always keep it in the family and you never sell it. So he agreed. So on the way back from Seashell picking the truck up and taking it to Quesnel, the trailer blew a bearing, I believe it was. So my dad got the old truck running and drove it with no insurance from Williams Lake to Quesnel that one time. That's the only time my dad ever drove it. He brought it to Quesnel, started ripping it apart. I helped him do the cab corners and the rockers and fix some of the rust, because it was in seashell for most of its life, which is right on the ocean. So all that salt water did kind of rust some of the body parts. So he replaced all of that stuff. Now it's in decent shape, but that's as far as it went. After that work was done, he never did finish it off, paint it, and start driving it. So this truck has literally been sitting for, at least 20 years, 25 years, with that one drive from Williams Lake to Quesnel. So years later, I ended up, well, I wouldn't say inheriting the truck, but my dad finally just said, look, I'm not going to get to it. If you want to, you can have it, and just promise me you're not going to sell it. So I agreed to that, and now here it is at the shop, and I've just never done anything with it. But I've thought about it. I've looked at it. You know, when this 292 engine kind of, you know, came on, I can't even say on the market because I didn't pay anything for it. The truck was just a pile in the back of this guy's yard, and I asked him about it because he was going to throw the truck away, and that's when he told me that it used to be a work truck, and he had taken the valve cover off, and it had carbon buildup on the rockers. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Well, I want to pull out the 292 and the 4-speed and the Z-bar and all of the parts. Even the steering column I ended up grabbing, just so I could convert this truck to a 4-speed. And then I got looking at it, you know, kind of thinking about what he had said about the carbon buildup on the rockers. So I took the oil cap off, and I looked down, and I could see 2 of the rockers. They look clean as a whistle to me. So I'm kind of thinking, this is my theory, that he's mistaken on what engine he pulled the valve cover off to look at the rockers, because this engine looks clean, and I know the truck that I had got had been sitting there for at least 15 or 20 years. So maybe his story got mixed up. So I'm taking a little bit of a shot. I'm going to pull this out, and we're going to put the 292 in this truck. This is a 250 cubic inch 6-cylinder. The 292 is going to have a bit more power. It came out of a 3/4 ton. So, you know, the 4-speed, so an extra gear, a little bit more horsepower. This probably has a little taller of a rear end because the 3/4 ton would have had a lower rear end. So, you know, it could be not bad. I don't know. But all I really know is if I don't do something with this old truck soon, like, I'm just not going to ever do anything. So now that I've got the engine, I figure, look, it's going to take me a couple of days to do the swap. If it goes well, then I could be driving this thing in a couple of days. The interior, well, it's nothing to write home about. It's pretty rough. You can see the dash. It's toasty. There's not much left of the seat, but the foam is still there. It's pretty bad, but I figure, you know what? Throw a seat cover on this, and maybe paint the door cards, put that back up. You know, we've got the sliding back windows, so that's a plus. And just start driving it. Because if I don't start doing it soon, like, how many more years can it sit? So, you know what? Today's the day. That's I guess what I'm trying to tell you. There's no point in kind of like making excuses anymore. It's time to get it on the road and start driving it. It's a nice old truck. I've got a piece of plywood that I'll throw in here. I've got new shocks. 2 of them, you can see, got halfway installed, just never finished. I think that one is, yeah, you can see, it says hanging there. It never just, you know, all work came to a halt about, you know, 8 to 10 years ago. So I'm going to finish it all off. We're going to get this truck running. My dad, he's not getting any younger. He's getting up there in age. He just broke his hip. So I just know how much it would mean to him if he seen me surprise him with this old truck, because he had big plans for it. When he first got it, there was this movie, and I can't remember what the movie was, but it had this truck that he wanted to build this one into. I think it had a roll bar in the back. I'm pretty sure it was 2-wheel drive, and it was definitely the Stepside, and he loved it. He loved the brown, because this truck on this movie, and I got to figure out what movie it was, but it was a brown truck with a roll bar in the back, Not sure if it was 2 or 4-wheel drive. That part I don't know. But, you know, if I don't do it here soon, the old man might not be around to see it finished. So that means a lot to me. And that's part of my driving force. And I can tell you, if my dad showed any kind of interest, like he would drive this truck, I would leave it there. I would give the truck back to him and let him enjoy it for as long as he can. You know, and that's where I am just a little bit torn about making the truck a 4-speed. He always wanted it a 4-speed, there's no doubt. But he has just recently broke his hip. So could he push the clutch in and shift the gears at this point? I don't know. But I know back in the day, the talk was always about it being a standard, you know, so I'm going to continue with that in hopes that, you know, I would love nothing more than my dad to drive this truck. Even if he just drove it one time, you know, that would be worth all of the work that I need to do here. Like, I just don't feel like it's a ton of work. I feel if I thrash on it for just a couple of days, we could have the 292 in there. I could have it fired up, and we could be potentially driving it, say, like a week from now. You know, let's just get it on the road so we can at least put it down a few streets, maybe pick up some parts, and who knows, it might become my daily driver or my dad's. You just don't know if you don't put the work in. So I'm going to do a lot less talking here now, and I'm going to start throwing some parts around and take that hood off, and let's get this engine and transmission out of there. The goal would be have this out today, the other engine in tomorrow, and start wiring everything back up. I really feel like everything should be interchangeable. That's the best thing about Chevy, is most of the parts are interchangeable. You know, you could take a straight 6 out of there and you could pop in a 454, you could bolt it to the same transmission and it's all going to work. That's the beauty of Chevy. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm going to be able to pop this out, pop the other stuff in. I've got the cross member from the other truck. So if the cross members are different, I got that covered. I got the Z-bar. I've got all the brackets, the balls. I got the pedal. I got everything that I need to make this conversion a success without spending any money. So it's just my time at this point. And my time is going to be free because this truck, you know, it does have a little bit more meaning to me than a lot of the other ones I work on. You know, this truck has been in my family. It's the only vehicle that's been in my family since I was just a kid. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't know about the truck because I didn't, let's see, how many years ago was it? I would say 15 years ago when my dad first got it. Maybe 12 to 15 years. So it's been off the road for a long time. And that is about to change. So I've got the engine strapped to the back of my truck. I'm going to take it down the road for a quick pressure wash. Try to get it as clean as I possibly can before I stuff it in the old truck. I'm still not even 100% sure that it's a 292 because, well, there's so much buildup on it, I don't even know where the block numbers are right now. So once I clean it off, I'm going to be able to find the numbers on the block and verify for sure that it is a 292. Either way, this is the engine that's going to be going in the old truck. I'm hoping that I'll be able to take out this distributor because this is points. The other engine has electronic distributor in it. So I got to look online to see if it's interchangeable. If not, I'm going to have to get a different distributor, but I'll deal with that down the road. Either way, this is the engine. Hopefully, within 2 days, it will be purring like a kitten in the old short box square body. So some of you may be wondering why we're pulling this 6-cylinder out and putting in another 6-cylinder. It's because when I did rebuild the carburetor all those years ago and got this engine running, it had a lot of top end noise. I did put seafoam in it. I ran it for quite a while. I tried taking it for a drive and it just never cleaned itself up. So that's the main reason why we're going to be taking this engine out and putting the 292 in. It's gonna give us a couple of benefits, a little bit more power. We're gonna get 4-speed. That extra gear is gonna be nice in the highway. So that is the main reason why we're pulling the original engine out. I'm not gonna throw the engine away because I would like to keep it with the truck, but for now, it's gotta go. So now that the engine's all pulled out, we're ready to put the 292 in. We've got it hanging off the forklift here. Within about 10 minutes, it'll be landed and home for good. All right, well, update. I have been mistaken. I have always thought that you could pretty much take any Chevy motor out and drop in a bigger one, or, you know, just pretty much any Chevy motor in, and that is not the case. So what we have found now, you can see that our mount is right there, and well, we still need to go back 4 inches. On the other side, we're lined up. So when I pulled this out, and I pulled it out of a square body, same body as this truck, but obviously I'm thinking that this plate right here was different and made it offset. And of course, I've already thrown the other truck away. So now we have to unbolt this here and see what it's gonna take to move it forward. And hopefully it's not gonna take us too long. But my apologies, you cannot take a 6-cylinder out and drop a 454 in. Well, not in every case anyway. But this is what we're dealing with, and we're going to fix the issue. You can see how we're lined up here, but the other side, we're out to lunch. So that's our first hurdle that we got to get over, but other than that, it's in there. So I've been looking at this for a few minutes, and I've just noticed something that, you know, we've got our 2 bolts right here, and there's, you know, 1 or 2 down there. On the other side, there's an extra hole right here. So it's making me wonder, and let me go over there and show you if we can actually just unbolt that plate and slide it forward. You see on this side here, we've got our 2 bolt holes there, and there's another hole there. So maybe we just have to unbolt this. If my theory is correct, there should be another hole underneath this plate right about there at the same spacing as these 2 bolts. Then you just take this, move it here, and drop it in. So maybe we're still gonna be okay, but we're soon to find out, because we're gonna do that right now, because this engine needs to be sitting in here by the end of the day. Well, I fixed the problem, but it definitely wasn't what I thought for sure. There was no hole back here. I did have to drill a few new holes. I ended up, you can see the offset now. I had to move this forward. So it fit, but with slight modification. So I learned something. You can't just take a 6-cylinder out and put a 454 in. You know, but in this case, you know, both the motors, that came out of a square body. This is a square body, different years, but they don't fit. So you learn something every day, I guess. But we're moving forward. Engine is about to go back in for the last time. Oh yes, by the way, transmission cross member didn't fit either, but with a slight mod, it'll fit. The last thing that I need to check is going to be my pinion angle, because I am using the cross member out of this truck for this transmission. So I'm going to make sure that I put digital like angle finder on the end of the yoke and on the rear end to make sure I don't have any vibration when I go down the road. So that'll be the last thing that I need to check, but I think it's very, very, very close. So I'm happy. It wasn't like days and days of modifications, couple hours, bada bing, bada boom. So we've made a lot of headway on my family's square body. As you can see, I've got a seat cover over the old seat. Definitely made it look a lot better. We've got the shifters all in. It's starting to look like a 4-speed. Pedal assembly is finished. Clutch is working. We've got some shocks to install. And up front here, engine's looking good. New distributor is in place. I've got the carburetor off. It's actually right here. I just finished rebuilding it. So I've got to put that on. and then look it over one last time, start cranking it over and trying to get it fired to life. The exhaust still needs to be done, but there's no point in finishing that until after I hear it run. Oh yeah, and I've also got a new fuel pump there. So we're getting really close to hearing it bark to life for the first time. And well, once I get that on, we're gonna be able to twist on the key and see if we can get this thing to flash up. So getting very close to firing up this 292. I've got the carburetor back on. It's all plumbed up. Just working on the throttle cable. I want to be able to fire it up with the key and give the pedal a few wraps once it warms up, of course. And you know, I'm just sitting back here and I'm looking at this simple machine and just thinking to myself how complicated the world's getting. And just everybody thinks they need stuff that they don't. This is all I need right here. You know, I need something that's going to get me from point A to point B, reliable, and look good for a reasonable price. This here is not going to let me down. I put a new fuel pump on it. It's got a new distributor, rebuilt the carburetor, and once it's been running for a little bit, I'll replace the starter. Then what else can go wrong? It's a nice little sewing machine sitting between the rails, and it'll chug along for years and years. So just think about that for a minute. Well, you pass me on the road, just chugging along. Let's twist the key and fire this thing up. All right, guys, here we go. Moment of truth. Was all the hard work worth it? Yes, it was. Sounds pretty good right off the bat. Clean. Pretty awesome seeing the 4-speed here. See it go bump forward. Start with reverse. Oh yeah. The 4-speed, baby. So I'm going to end this video off here. Like always, be safe out there. Hey, let me know in the comments if you want me to do anything else to this old truck or if I should just leave it stock. But for now, I'm going to take it out and just enjoy it.